Can a film about making movies still connect with you when the conversation it's having is happening in a world you don't completely understand? This is Dave's Movie Diary, where I revisit the films I've watched throughout my life and look at them through the perspective of who I am now. Not just whether they still work, but what they reveal about the characters, the stories, and the person watching them years later. Today I'm revisiting Irma Vep, Olivier Assayas' 1996 French film about filmmaking, creativity, ego, and the changing world of cinema. Why this film? Why did I return to this film? I first saw this film late 90s, early 2000s when I seemed to watch heaps of movies. I was watching, I don't know, felt like 15 or 20 movies a week. I remember being not disappointed by it, but I knew I just didn't get it. It wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was reasonably entertaining, I just didn't get it. I was too young, or I didn't have the knowledge to connect with it, and I was, mid to late 20s. Just didn't resonate with me. It was probably one of those films where I could sense there was something going on that was interesting, but I wasn't quite able to understand what it was trying to say. Coming back to it nearly, 25, 30 years later, I expected that I might appreciate it a bit more. And I did. But I also realized it's still a very unusual, very specific film about filmmaking, a kind of cinematic Russian doll where every layer is commenting on another layer. So 1996 too, when this film was made, I think cinema was at a bit of a turning point. It was an interesting period. Hollywood was again becoming increasingly dominated by bigger budgets and franchises and action movies and international markets. However, at the same time, independent cinema was thriving. Still, I mean, the early 90s are where independent cinema for me really staked a big claim. By 96, it was kind of being diverted into mainstream films, or at least becoming absorbed to an extent. So I think there was discussion about what cinema could and should be. Should it be art, entertainment? Should it be accessible or challenging? And Irma Vep feels like it exists right in the middle of that debate. It's a film about making a film. The film follows Maggie Cheung, playing a fictionalized version of herself. She's just finished making an action film in Hong Kong, and she arrives in France to star in a remake of the classic silent French crime serial Les Vampires. She's hired to play Irma Vep, a mysterious thief character. Straight away, though, she enters a production in chaos. They're all stressing out because she's the film that she was previously making ran overtime, as they frequently do. The director, Rene Vidal, is struggling. He's a mercurial guy. The crew are arguing constantly. A lazy, stereotypical thing to say would be to say that it's a very French production. Everyone is dramatic and saying things to each other without any filters. But I wonder if I get that feeling because I'm aware of that stereotype. Not sure, but they're brutal with each other. It's pretty funny. Anyway, the production seems to be struggling, falling apart nearly. Everyone has different ideas about what the film should be. The director then has some major issues and gets replaced. Throughout this whole process, Maggie is the outsider. She's trying to understand the language and the culture and the director and the filmmaking process. She's trying to understand how to play this role. And she's us. She's our window into this world. And as the production goes on, I felt like the boundaries between the film being made and the reality around it begin to disappear. And does Maggie start becoming this Irma Vep character? Uh, the movie itself starts becoming the thing that it's analysing. Olivier Assayas must be an interesting director. I have seen a couple of his other films. Apart from this, I saw Clean, which also features Maggie Cheung, and I can't recall if I've seen Demon Lover or not. When I read about Demon Lover, it sounds like I should remember seeing it, but I don't. So maybe I haven't. Just from watching this film, I can see that he's arguing. He seems to be having a dialogue with French cinema itself, because the film seems to question whether French filmmaking has become elitist, that it's too intellectual, too disconnected from mainstream audiences or most of the audiences, and too serious. The characters in the film touch on other film cultures with a lot of admiration, like Japanese cinema being disciplined and exciting to be a part of, and Hong Kong cinema having a lot of energy and movement, vitality, and American cinema, of course, understanding the value of just entertaining. There's really a feeling that French cinema is a bit lost and a bit bloated, nearly like the music scene of the mid to late 70s was to the punks that came along and kicked that door down. So reality starts to blur at a point in the film, and that's when it becomes more interesting. And for me, the film was constantly asking me, where does the movie stop and reality begin? And it's hard to know, a bit like a David Lynch movie. There's a really funny moment where a woman complains she's been stranded and she's had to watch every movie in town, even a Steven Seagal movie, just to explain how bad her life has become. It's a really funny line, but that part of the film is also the turning point where it switches, when Irma Vep is snooping around in that woman's apartment before she steals some jewelry, which is what the character is and does. And at that point, the film moved away for a while from simply being about a production and becomes about the lives and frustrations and personalities of the people making it, but really becomes a film within a film, and is quite an interesting blurring. Everyone in this production, like I said before, seems to operate at maximum emotion. They're arguing, they're shouting, they're insulting each other, and then they storm off in a huff, and then they're back together, and it's great. It's really, really fun to watch. It probably is an exaggerated version of a French film production, but like they say about every joke, there's an element of truth. So Assayas is probably injecting some of his experiences in there as well. I think the film really does take a lot of shots at the idea of filmmakers being divas and being overly dramatic and self-important. So that was fun. One of my other favorite moments is when they're trying to get the vampire costume, or Irma Vep's costume, correct at the start, and it's this latex. It's a rip-off of Catwoman, and they talk about that. They talk about Catwoman in this sex shop when they're putting together this bondage gear and trying to adapt it to be Irma Vep's costume. And Maggie Cheung and others are talking about the Tim Burton Batman films, and the characters can't believe that there's been 3 Batman films that already exist by 1996. They don't think much of the first one or the second one, but they admit Catwoman was great, and that's a fairly common. I think that's a fairly common attitude. I don't quite see it that starkly, but there's no doubt that Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman in Batman Returns is one of the most memorable parts of those films. It's another example from this film that, it's another example of Irma Vep, the film, I guess, constantly having conversations about cinema while also being a film itself. Maggie Cheung, to me, is the perfect outsider. I think the decision to cast her is probably one of the smartest things about the film. She is our entry point into this world. She's a genuine outsider culturally, as well, entering this strange French filmmaking world. But I think what makes it work so well is that this mirrors my own experience watching the film. I'm an outsider. I'm trying to understand the language and the culture, what the arguments are about, above all, the artistic debates, and trying to figure out exactly what this film is trying to say. And Maggie, to me, becomes not just a character, but a guide. And she's the one person who stays calm. Throughout. Even when she departs, she just arrives out of nowhere as a professional actor, simply trying to do a job. She tries to get her head around what the director wants, and sort of arrives at a midpoint somewhere. Doesn't take it too seriously. She knows that the production's falling apart, and a bit like me, she's trying to find meaning inside this confusion. She was already a major star before this film came out, and she was in the Police Story movies with Jackie Chan, and also Project A Part 2. But she was in some other iconic films, Days of Being Wild, and In the Mood for Love in particular, and also Hero. That was a Jet Li film, I think, but it was a cut above just an action film. It was a look back in time. I think so. Yeah, it was a look back. Anyway, yeah, I can't remember too much about it, but I remember it being quite a well-made film. In the Mood for Love has got a lot of admirers. That's another film that's escaped me over time. I'm not even sure I've seen it, actually. But yeah, she was a major star in various films, a bit like her character in this one. She'd been in action films and dramas and romances. So for me, she was the most captivating thing about the film. She has charisma, calmness, professionalism, curiosity. Everyone else is overwhelmed by their egos and emotions, but she's just trying to get a handle on it and just goes with it. She was my emotional connection to this movie. I couldn't really relate to anyone else. And I think without her, I would have been even more detached from what the film was doing. With her, it becomes much more accessible. So she was a great casting. I did learn that Olivier Assayas and Maggie Cheung got together romantically after this film, and might have even been married. And then they made Clean, a really gritty film in 2004, and they weren't together then, but they still collaborated on that. And she won the Best Actress award at Cannes. So even though they mightn't have gotten along by that point, they realised they could still collaborate really effectively. I did love when Sonic Youth's Tunic, Song for Karen, comes blasting out while Maggie's searching through a room trying to understand what's happening. That really grabbed my attention. I love a lot of what Sonic Youth do. And the music was perfectly for that scene, and it captures that confusion and rebellion and energy and uncertainty that Sonic Youth was so good at. But it really I felt like it helped me really get inside Maggie's experience, and I just love that song too. Lots of things worked for me in this film. Like I said, Maggie Cheung's performance the atmosphere, the strange energy, the dialogue between the characters and their relationships. The ideas about cinema were interesting, even though I couldn't quite understand them. The constant uncertainty, I didn't know what was going to happen yet. It's certainly an unconventional script and film. The biggest challenge is, of course, that so much of the film centers around French cinema and where's it going, and being quite critical about it. I could understand it overall, but without knowing it more intimately, I was just scratching the surface. So kind of always felt like I was out of my depth and not really part of the discussion. So I think if you do have that deeper knowledge of French films, especially where they were at that time, this film will land a lot harder for you. I don't think it's a date film, unless your date does have that strong interest in French cinema and filmmaking. There's still plenty to talk about afterwards, but yeah, it's not going to land for a lot of people, so things could go in the wrong direction. I'm really torn as to whether it's a hangover film. It's got interesting images and great music and Maggie Cheung. You kind of drift in and out of this one even when you're just sitting there sober. But maybe the French cinema discussions might make that headache a bit worse. It's probably a watch alone film. Absorb it, think about it, decide what you can take from it, I guess. Yeah, you can tell I'm still kind of thinking about this film and not really sure, to be honest. I do know it was a better experience this time around, 25 years later. I did get a lot more out of it. I think I can understand it a lot better. I wouldn't say I love the film, but I liked it, and I don't really know why. It's really, really strange. I found it entertaining somehow. It must have been the characters, their relationships, just their back and forth, some of the dramas maybe. I was never bored. I did find it fascinating because I couldn't work out where it was going. But yeah, it was a bit frustrating to me that some of the conversations are just outside of my understanding. So I'm glad I watched it. Sometimes the most interesting films aren't the ones that give you all the answers, that's for sure. So yeah, Maggie Cheung was fantastic. Makes me want to revisit some of those earlier movies she made that I'm not even sure I saw. The big ones anyway. I know I saw the Jackie Chan ones, and they're good. But without her, who knows, I mightn't have even made it through this one. So with her in it though, Irma Vep becomes something genuinely fascinating. Yeah, you can see the film's made by a filmmaker questioning where cinema was going at that moment. So yeah, unusual. Irma Vep from 1996. That's it for me. Thanks as always for listening, and see you next time.